Hi everybody. James made this video today and my recorder's gone a bit strange. It doesn't want me to put narration and video together. If I do, it goes echo, echo, echo. And I'm not recording James's video all over again to add to this 1 minute whatever that he's made of this video. So what we're going to do is we're just going to play his video. So here comes James's video.
O thou, from whom the breath of life comes, who fills all realms of sound, light and vibration, may your light be experienced in utmost holiest, your heavenly domain approaches. Let your will come true in the universe, all that vibrates. Just on earth, that is material and dense, give us wisdom, understanding, assistance, for our daily need. Detach the fetters of fault that bind us, karma, like we let go the guilt of others. Let us not be lost in superficial things, materialism, common temptations, but let us be freed from that which keeps us from our true purpose. From you comes the all-working will, the lively strength to act, the song that breathes all and renews itself from age to age. Sacred in trust, faith and truth, I confirm with my entire being.
Oh, thanks, James. That was a very nice video that he's done there, and it's actually called The Real Prayer to the Creator. Anyway, on with our hangout now. Hey, I'm back here with James. Hello,
Hi.
James. James, this is our first hangout, not at my house.
Yeah, that was what, 6 weeks ago?
I know, that's a lot. You've been gone ages now, haven't you?
Seems it.
Yeah.
Now what, end of April, so yeah.
Yeah, you and Gary, there's not many people that have been to SAMFU's headquarters, you know.
Yeah, oh that's right, yeah.
Anyway, it's very interesting. We've just been playing your video, James. So what invoked that video?
Just things come. It's meditation when you still the conscious and it's sort of working with the subconscious. That's an electrical circuit, but it opens up an electromagnetic circuit. It's this thing what they call alignment. So it's the gut, the heart, and it's basically the pineal gland. So it's bringing the things in alignment. It opens up a whole new reality, as it were. Because we're basically just magnetic. Well, when somebody sort of comes in and they say it's only me, then they're actually telling the truth. It's magnetic and electric. They're subconsciously describing what their physical bodies are.
Now, I saw a video today where someone's saying, "Who are you?" And the question is, well, I'm not my name. I'm not a piece of furniture. I'm something different. I've got two names, but that's not me. So I saw someone put one of those videos out today. It was only about a minute long. But yeah, first of all, just explain, because obviously you've travelled from my house up to Scotland, and yeah, you've been up there for what? It doesn't feel that long ago you were here. My garden's still in retreat from you trimming it back.
Should be growing by now.
Only just, James, because you chopped it back so much. But I don't mind, because it was so bad. You know it was bad, don't you, James?
Yeah, well, I think it's Budlear. That was the one. You have to take it down to the roots. The ones that come with those, they're sort of like violet colour, small flowers. They form basically like a triangle. The best way I can.
Right. Well, you cut the ivy back. That's only just by the back door. That's only just starting to grow after 6 weeks. You know, because you basically
doesn't like sunlight. It grows better in the shadows. So.
Well, James, you haven't killed it, James, but almost.
No, ivy will soon come back.
Well, then I'll have to chop it, because I don't want it going the way it was before. I've really enjoyed being able to see my garden.
Yeah. It's when it starts eating into cement and things, that's when it can be a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, ivy's beautiful and it's everlasting, and I like that side of it. But the other side is that it's just a triffid and it don't stop growing, and it just eats and ruins everything. So what a horrible thing it really is. It's okay when it's a pot plant or it's small, but it just gets out of control and it just takes over everywhere.
It's one of those things you have to sort of manage every now and again, really.
Managed by James.
Pretty much all this thing about overpopulation. So that's basically they're trying to do a trim.
I think they probably wish we were triffids, wouldn't they? It'd be much easier to deal with then.
Well, as is suggested so often in employment, we're human resources. So we're classed as
yeah, that's about right.
A nation's energy, as it were, and treated as such, just a commodity in the eyes of this system.
This beast system.
But it's everything has a cycle. It's just coming to the point where it's where it is crumbling. We don't want it to sort of suddenly come crashing down in too much of a hurry, because it'll end up with a lot of innocent people getting hurt. Because it'll end up as like gangs.
Or do you think we're just watching because, someone put, there wasn't mud floods before, they were just different resets?
Quite possibly.
So this is just another reset?
Without having the original sort of, this is how it was and this is when it started, it's almost impossible to piece together. It's like trying to do
Yes, I know, it's impossible. Gillian did the other day about the Reichs, the first, the second and the third. They're the three Roman empires, but they don't link them together. But suddenly now you can find all this history about it, which wasn't there before. And we're like, holy moly. And some people on the messages were going, oh yes, I knew about that. And I'm thinking, really? You all knew about it? Then why aren't you making posts about it? It's terrible.
It's almost like they've taken the double helix and used that as a blueprint to sort of wrap history over and fold it over and just totally muddle it up, or basically like taking a deck of cards and shuffling all the cards up.
Yeah, and then just throwing it on the ground and going, "Oh, it's all right. They can find the end in the beginning." Well, they don't want us to find the end in the beginning. I mean, do you know? Me and Amy were looking last night about, because obviously, like when you realise they show you these pictures of the Empire State Building, and they have all these in the 1930s. They have all these buildings on there. When you realise that the statue is about half the size of the island, it's not as big as you think it is. And then how did all those buildings get there? 2-story buildings. They must have been midgets then. So they're lying about everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Did you know that the Empire State Building was a present from France?
Well,
France. And then did you also know that there was bombing in, what year was it? In the war. Second World War. They gave it to America. So how they get it there? This time round, I found some cranes of how they put it up, and they do show that it's on a star fort, which I didn't find before.
It's not much of a present when it's like, well, here's the present, but you've got to have a subscription to raise money to build the base to put it on. That's hardly a present. That's just causing somebody.
Yeah, and not just that, they've got a sale with it, so someone's got to pay for it to be taken there. So, yeah.
As far as I know, it says the plaque says it's a gift from the Masons of Paris to the Masons of New York, or something on those lines. So it's not actually a gift to the United States or the people of the United States.
Oh, wow. It didn't say that. It just said a present from France.
It's supposed to have been originally.
And then in the Second World War, the Germans didn't like the fact that the Americans were helping the English, and they did some bombs in New York. It shattered windows and everything. And I'm thinking, well, I never heard of that before. America don't go on about the Second World War, that Germany launched a few missiles and it hit things. But there's pictures of it. But I don't remember that. Do you?
Don't know, but as I say, going back to that Statue of Liberty, as far as I remember, it was intended to go to a city in Egypt, and they said we're not paying for that, so it's second-hand anyway. So
really? Oh, we'll have it. We'll have the thing.
Mean, does that face on that thing really look feminine?
I know also as well, because of that war thing and because of the bomb going off, they it went off like about 2 o'clock in the morning and people got killed, they said. But basically they stopped people going up to the torch. Now, in your mind, you've got it that it's quite big, haven't you? But basically, when you get up to the crown, only about 3 or 4 people can stand at that point. That's only that big. And so when you get to the torch, basically they'd have to go on this horrible walk up anyway, or I don't know if it's got lifts still, but up. And then to get to the torch, they'd have to walk even a worse journey, just to walk round this little turret thing with about 2 or 3 people could get on it, and then walk down. So this is why they stopped people going up there, because there's no room up there. And before it was like called Liberty like that, it was actually a lighthouse. It was a lighthouse.
That would make sense. It would be, but it sounds like the anticlimax of walking up the monument in London, the 365 steps to see just lots of boxy buildings that are taller than this monument. So.
Right, I already know that in Hyde Park, I forget what hill it's called now. Oh, damn, I've forgotten the hill. Such hill. That's a pyramid. They're just covering everything up. But that I was a bit like, well, no wonder they wouldn't let anybody up to the Empire State Building, because basically about 3 or 4 people would be able to walk round that thing, and then you'd have walked this sort of treacherous journey up the arm to get there, just to walk round and then walk down. No wonder they shut it off to the public. That thing is a lot bigger than it is.
Yeah, looks so interesting you mentioned Hyde Park. I think that's the one with a lake called the Serpentine, which, if I remember rightly, is said to have been constructed in the mid-1800s. The usual story.
There's a lot of Tartaria around there.
Yeah, it's the usual backstory.
Well, when I say Tartaria, I just mean history, because like when they were showing some of the buildings, I actually said, look, this church was supposed to be built 200 or 300 years ago. When you look at the drawing, does that building look that old? So we can't actually say, you'll say, that's a Victorian building, but that building could be 300 years old, not 200 years old. See what I mean? We can't work that out. Buildings are not, they're older than they say they are.
Well, I think what they do, you've got a physical one, which is basically everywhere something's been mined and something's been extracted and it's left like Swiss cheese. Everything with history is like Swiss cheese. It's full of holes.
Yeah, that's right, James.
And it's all, well, these rabbit holes, it's like to never find the end of it.
Yeah, there's no beginning and no end. I mean, like, for instance, the Roman Empire, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Like, well, why didn't they just say that? Why lie to us?
The nature of this reality is nothing is as it is.
That's true. You can see how easy it was to make a narcissistic society then, can't you? Anyway, James.
Oh, yeah.
I've been chatting about a few things, but what have you been doing lately? What have you been getting into?
Hold on, I'm just going to push the door too. What do I do? Meditate, basically. I find sometimes something will just come, and then it's the only way I can describe it is like those old split flat boards you'd have on the London railway terminals, those old mechanical things that list all the stations. So it's like that. This sort of clicks. So the word yesterday was passion. It's used as in like the passion of Christ. When you're passionate about something, you've got a feeling for something, and I thought, passion, pass I on. And I thought,
ion, ion.
Or pi as scion. Ways of reading that. But to me, it's saying spiritual eye on, lift up thine eye. So it's looking inwards to your heavens, and it's the pituitary gland basically. That is the creator in every one of us.
I think if you find passion, it's a natural thing as well, because it just takes over, because it's just, passion's a natural sort of,
Yeah,
as they like their
yeah.
plastic world, that's something that they can't control, is something like that, isn't it?
Well, passion is like intense feeling, and when you've got an intense feeling, that's what creates into this solid, what appears as solid industriality. Everything starts with feeling in the unseen. So a perfect example would be, I imagine a building, I take it to an architect, he does a blueprint, gives it to a builder, and then it goes from imagination to a solid object. But what I'm finding interesting...
Are you finding anything interesting things up in Scotland?
I haven't really been anywhere. It's a bit on the cold. What I have been finding, you know, when you talk to people and they just don't understand what you're saying, they're on a completely different wavelength.
Mm. Yeah, most people in my family, but carry on, yeah.
It's like, okay, let's run with this. Well, how far can we take it? And it's almost like I can go shopping and I'm invisible. I can see them and they can see me, but there's no interaction. I don't get challenged about why I'm not wearing this or that, shall we say. And I've had zero bother. I mean, even travelling up here, I mean, looking at social media, there's sort of been army roadblocks and things. Nothing, absolutely nothing.
I know, I just find it really incredible to think that we shut down without one soldier, one police officer, and there's no, it's not like, well, we've been sort of locked in our houses, you think, cool, look at all those helicopters going over, cool, can you hear all those tanks? It's not like they're doing anything. I don't know what's going on.
Well, the other thing for the
But someone did say, like with Prince Philip dying, that obviously something's changing over right now. I mean, how do we not know that he ran the country and the Queen didn't? She was just the face of it, but he ran it.
The thing to bear in mind is that was the date that it was released that he's died. It doesn't mean he died on that day.
He died last year or something. We all think that, don't we? You and me have talked about this. We don't think that he died yesterday or last week. Well, not yesterday, but, you know, like last week or a couple of weeks ago. We feel he died a long time ago.
Yeah. What I will say for the record as well, whatever is portrayed externally, the freight trains, because there's quite a big freight yard near here, and they've got containers on with Tesco's on the side. Everything is still flowing perfectly. The supplies are still going.
I said that to you though, didn't I, James? Yeah. I said that, you know, like they've put us in this thing, but everything is still happening. Like, I thought we'd be starting to say, oh, there's hardly anything in the shops. It's not like that, is it?
I was saying it just purely because we're doing a hangout and then other people are going to hear it, because this is like personal testimony. It's not a second-hand, okay, it's second-hand information for someone who's hearing it, but I can say as a witness that I'm seeing freight trains with Tesco boxes, and that to me says everything is still running normally.
Well, I told you what I thought happened. It was a bit like Trump and it was Trump at the time, but it was a bit like they all said to the corporations, right, are we all ready now? And then he comes out, goes, we're in a lockdown. But basically he sorted it all out with the businesses. You know, nothing's wrong, everything's still going. You know, like when they're giving us our grant, they're not giving it from the government, they're giving it from the bank accounts which they've got in our names. So it hasn't really cost them anything. And think about it, when we pay our council, not for people in other countries, but for us here in the UK, when we have our council tax, we're paying for everything. The government aren't paying for it, the people are paying for it. So nothing much has changed, has it?
Nothing's changed at all. It's like, if you want to talk in terms of like religion.
Except companies have noticed a lot of people are out of work.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is that behind it all, at the moment, everything is flowing as if nothing has changed.
Yeah, pretty much. Sort of business as usual, unless you happen to be a small independent business.
It's not business for usual. It wasn't business for usual for me.
No, well, this is the thing. The sort of corporate business, they're the ones that are not affected, but the small independent traders, this is what it's an assault on. It's that gradual squeeze on freedom. It's like a stranglehold.
Well, I had to ring up my car place today, and it's Lloyd's, and I'm going, so basically it really annoys me because Lloyd's is probably one of the corporations that's done it to us. And
Well, it's part of
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
you should
basically, I was
think of
talking
a
to this
little.
bloke, and he can't really. Staff can't really talk to you because it get. If they call that if they pull that phone call and the guy's going, oh yes, this is a terrible company, he's going to lose his job. But he knew things were wrong. Everybody I speak to knows that there's something really wrong and it doesn't add up.
Well, they always say for training and security purposes, this call may be recorded. They record them all, so they can't say anything really.
No.
That would probably cost them their job. That's probably built into their terms of employment. A lot of places will have a sub-clause about what you can and can't say on social media about the company you work for these days to protect themselves. But it's when you look at what was and what is. I mean, what's happened to all the enhancements you used to get for working at weekends or night rate? That's all gone.
They've just got rid of things, haven't they? Or they've cut things out, I think. Maybe some people won't notice it, but they will in the end.
Well, you've also got this barbaric sort of thing called 0 hours. So I mean, you basically, if you don't work, you don't get any.
I think they've actually, basically, everything's going to be going up because they've all talked about, well, we're going to stick this on your phone bill, we're going to stick this on this because things are going up. But actually, the minimum wage looks like it's dropped, like it's £8 something. Like it's not particularly high, and they want everybody working for that.
Well, in religious terms, there's a sort of an umbrella term called pagan. I mean, nothing's changed. We're still pay again.
Yes,
right,
those pagans, we've been paying for a long time, James, and they've just lied over the top.
Even beyond death, if you've got relatives that decease and leave you money, there's inheritance tax. So although that money's already been taxed, it's being taxed again.
I don't get that. If you earn your money, you put it in your building society, then they tax you for it to go in there, and then they tax you to take it out. Like, why do you have to keep paying all this tax?
Because they're basically crooks, and this is what.
Yeah, you're right about that, James. Crooks.
Well, they are. I mean, if someone had said to me, 25 years from now, you'll still be on the same rate per hour, I would have said no way. But it's happened.
Yes.
So, and it's like back then you're thinking I'm sort of breaking even. So 25 years later.
Yeah, basically we were better off a few years ago. About 5-10 years ago, we were better off than we are now.
Yeah. Well, that famous saying, was it Macmillan in the 50s? You've never had it so good. And it's sort of like in some ways a truth drop because things have gone into decline. I mean, there was a time.
But you know what? I don't understand that, James, because when you learn a little bit about things, when you're in a monetary system, things will go up, things will go down, things will go up, things will go down. Now, they have to include all those in their forecasts and everything. So why are they doing all this to us?
Well, they use astrology to do this. Apparently, well, so I've heard, I think there's about 4 or 5 men get together in London and they set the price of gold and silver at the start of each day, and then that has an impact on the financial markets because it's all kept in this sort of exclusive, constant flux. I mean, you see the scenes of the stock exchange are all waving their arms in the air and all in panic and hysterical and buy and sell this and it's just.
But naturally, a monetary system, you'll have good years and you'll have bad years and good years and bad years. So why isn't all that included? Why are they pretending and lying about everything now?
That's in their nature. I mean, show me something in this reality they haven't lied about.
I know, I don't, do you know something, even that I don't get, James. Like, just say, like, we've learned about the Roman Empire and all that, right? So why not tell us the truth? We can't change it. It would have been 200-300 years ago. We're in this now. They could have just told us the truth. Yeah, look, we were the baddies, actually, and we won. And we changed everything. Why not just tell us?
It's not in their nature to well, they do in a very twisted way. It's part of well, basically I see it as like It's a matrix, and you've got you've got two programs running. You've got a nature program and an anti-nature program. And the anti-nature program looks to have the upper hand, but they are on a limited time, shall we say. They know it. They're the ultimate in basically the textbook narcissists. They are outwardly projecting their own inner turmoil. That's what's being presented on the screens continuously.
That's right, it's their turmoil. They've made this all for us. If you've woken up, you're an empath, this is the worst possible time of your life right now, with all the lies and everything, when you know what's going on, and there's nothing you can really do about it, but you know what's going on, and it just annoys me. And then, like the monetary thing, if we go up and down, why not just say we're in one of the down bits at the moment? Why have to do all this to us?
As far as the financial thing, I forget it's so long ago since I saw it, but it was explained how they work it like seasons. You've got 4 periods, and they use the astrology where they can almost start a war or start a war, and then there's a period with financial growth, financial decline. But the very nature of this control system is just continuous change. It's taking what nature does, because you'll see in the garden how with the seasons how everything will change. So they've used that as a blueprint, but it's played out on. This is why you have things like fashion, why things are designed increasingly to fail. I'll give you a case in point. Do you remember the old dinky toys, the die-cast
Yeah, they used one of those when Prince Philip got buried, a dinky toy.
Well, they had stamped on the bottom "Made in England." That toy was robust. It lasted several generations of children, often handed down. You try doing that with anything today. It's all plastic. It's all.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Everything I give my grandchildren right now is plastic.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is, because you don't think about it. And then I was thinking, well, that's plastic. No matter what it was, it's plastic.
Well, they had that big. I remember the big advertising campaign, Tonka Toys, and they had an elephant foot stand on this toy to show how indestructible they were. But those days are well and truly over. We've moved very much into this synthetic age.
I don't even understand, because when you think the waste of plastic, bags in the sea, but whatever it is, rubbish. But you know what? They can actually turn plastic into tarmac.
Yeah, So I think in India they do that, don't they?
Well, I've seen projects where they've done tarmac with it, but why not just do that? Round it all up, make tarmac out of it. It's already.
I'm glad you mentioned plastic, because it's like everything else in this reality.
Plastic.
No, humanity. Right. While humanity will keep going to the supermarkets and buying.
Well, even that, James. I know that you're sorry. I'm just stopping you there. Even that, right? I was putting some recycling out yesterday, and I thought they've got it made. They make us go to the plastic supermarket and buy the plastic food with the plastic containers, and then we pay to have those plastic containers taken away. Should be the shops paying for it. They're the ones that give us the flipping plastic. All it is, even like the television. We've got that plastic television in our houses that's mind controlling you, and we pay for it. We're paying for the rubbish to be taken away. Our whole life's set up to pay for other people's things.
Well, the way to unfortunately...
Television, when they're mind controlling you, it should be free.
the way, in an ideal world, that this could be worked, while you've got more than one supermarket, you could play one off against the other. If you could get an entire housing estate, say, right, we will all boycott, say, Tesco's this week, and we'll write letters to that manager and say, we are not buying anything from here until you do something about the excess plastic. And you could play one off against the other. The only other way to do it is individually to take off the excess wrapping and leave it in the store and say, I don't want this. I didn't ask for all this extra plastic.
I'm just saying that people don't realise that we're paying for all these things other people do. Oh, yeah. They're getting us to pay for it, for their stuff. It should be the shops paying for our recycling. It should be the television. We should have free television, because they're mind controlling us. You know how bad it is. It's not just a little bit. The whole thing is just one great big program to mind control us.
Well, I think it's largely down to David Icke, really. That saying, problem, reaction, solution. This control system will create the problems in the first place. Take, for example, diseases. They are unnatural. They're not of nature, so they've been concocted unnaturally. And this is the way they play it. You've got people with all the good intentions. They go and volunteer, give up their time in cancer research charity shops, when all along there are cures for cancer, but we've got a thing in place called the 1939 Cancer Act that you cannot do anything and say, I can cure cancer. They've made it illegal under an act unless it involves
So is YouTube. So is YouTube now. You're not allowed to give information out. It's a strike. But you can talk about narcissism. So you can be like a doctor there and you can talk about it there and that's fine. But if you actually said, like, I'm a doctor and I'm telling you to take this, YouTube will strike you. And I find other things wrong. Like, we're not allowed to do things, but if you break an entry into a building that doesn't belong to you and you make a video, thousands of people can watch and YouTube will pay you for it. So they're just such hypocrites, YouTube. Utter hypocrites.
So the thing is, what is this all showing to us?
The bogus system that we're in, James?
No, what it's showing is the one thing that they lack: imagination. It's like if I want to talk about, how do I word this? This latest technology to do with mobile phones. The way I'll express it on my videos, I will say the thing between 4F and 6H. Because everybody knows what that is quite easily from that, and I've not actually said the words. All this thing is saying is be inventive, think out the box.
You would think that a government would be doing rules and regs on the whole thing and saying, hang on a minute, is this good for the people? They don't seem to care. It's all just railroading in as if, obviously the telephone companies are part of it then. So you've got the television's part of it, the telephone companies are part of it.
Hold on, you just said the government should be. When is any government does anything?
Yeah, I know, James, but I'm just saying that's what should be happening. You and I know that it's a load of rubbish.
Every country, take a third world country, you'll still have the president of that country living in luxury while the population is starving. It's done to varying degrees. I mean, look at Brighton just go down the seafront and see, I don't know about now, but how many homeless people there are down there, sleeping in shop doorways. This is supposed to be the civilized world.
Nothing. Yeah, but you know what? I was listening to something, and he was talking. Who was it the other day? And he was in the 1940s. And I know it was. He was King George, wasn't he? The one before the Queen. He abdicated, yeah. Wallace and Simpson and all that, and he was going, I've been to some terrible places and the people are so poor, and I said in my video, well, nothing changes then.
No, it's mind you, he's portrayed.
So that video's not out yet, but I've got it ready to go out, but nothing changes. Whatever he was talking about is happening today.
Well, they did portray him as leaving aside the sort of friends with the Third Reich, he was
also fake in the video. He's got brown eyes in the video, but he doesn't. He has blue eyes. So he was deep faked in 1969. So this thing they've been doing to us has been going on for a really long time. And actually, James, very quickly, did you see on the Sun and Moon group that neon? Someone put a video in that it's neon. They just basically they layer the people up. They're fake people. A lot of them are, and this is how they're making our news. And the president, they're just doing the same thing. They're using a neon technology to make them, but they're not real.
Well, I don't think anything that's portrayed on the screen is real, to be honest.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest shocks. It came after that hangout we did about Victorian times when we were actually looking at the photographs, you and me, and I was going, there's something wrong. And then that's it. That's it. It's all wrong. All of it.
Yeah.
Everything I find out right now never adds up. Like, You know, like that bit when Julian and I, that's really like, what do you mean the Third Reich is the Third Roman Empire? Like, well, that's news to me. You know, like it's suddenly there in your history, like Napoleon. Remember, we looked up Napoleon and he was a good
Yeah.
man. They were giving him red carnations, which is either admiration or love. But he was stopping the Rothschilds, so maybe that's why they wanted to give him red roses. I don't
Well,
know. Was it real?
it's
Who knows?
it's not. None of this is that dissimilar from if you do family history, because you'll uncover the next generation back, but it opens up more and more questions. And it's like the more you look into any of these things, whether it be mud floods, Sataria, all it does is just give you more and more questions. It doesn't actually give you any answers. And
Yeah,
it's
you
almost
you're
like,
just left. You get a bit of the history, or you get a bit of the answer, but you don't get the whole of
yeah,
it.
it's like pigeons at Trafalgar Square. Here's a bird seed after a whole load, and we just muddle the whole thing up and make it even harder to
Yeah, you know the bit about like
work.
the German Empire, right? And then we all know that actually the Queen was German, and so was Prince. You know, there's Prince Philip. Well,
Yeah,
he was Prince of Denmark, and he was Prince of Greece, and then his family got chucked out for various reasons. But
but all the
but they went
all
from
these
German, and
rules.
then they changed their name to Windsor. So what's the connection? Because it looks like, you know, people, when I put the video out, people were saying, "Oh yes, UK was part of it as well," and I'm thinking, well, didn't we conquer the world? And what about the Barbary ship? So none of it adds up.
Well, the story goes that they changed the name during the First World War because of obviously their fights in Germany, and you got Goethe German bombers. The company
They
is called
didn't
Goethe.
mind doing the Heil Hitlers with them, did they?
No, but I mean, you look at Marie Antoinette. She's the sister of whatever the Archduke of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. All these royals are intermarried from one country to another. That's nothing new. You'll have a Prince of Denmark marries one of the German states' princesses or countess or whatever.
Mind you, what was it? It was the Queen of Spain was the Queen of Denmark. Oh, oh dear
I mean,
me! And, you know, like when you put the pictures on the top, they're the same person. So I mean, they're not really marrying, are they? It's all just a game. I mean, God.
well, this sort of dovetails neatly into something else, another aspect of this. I mean, if you do say, I'll use family history as an example. So if you go back, you'll have like an inverted pyramid of ancestors. If you just go with like mother and father and their parents, and they're double with each generation. If you come from one of those ancestors forward and follow every line of every offspring they have, it forms another pyramid. It forms a pyramid shape. So this sort of begs the question now you've got with these royal families, they must be doing basically a pruning to keep these bloodlines. There must be many more people who are actually related that have been cut out of those central branches, or what they deem to be their central branches. Unless they are completely non-intermixing with us mere mortals, as it were.
I just think it's crazy, but then if you're asleep, you're not going to see it, are you?
Sorry?
If you're asleep, you're not going to see it.
Well, I mean, take, for example, Queen Elizabeth, 3 sons and a daughter, so that's 4 children. So Philip and Elizabeth have had 4 children, so they've doubled in number and have had children. So that family is growing and it's fanning out. So if you're going to keep that wealth, you've got to prune that family tree down again. Otherwise, their wealth would just dissipate.
Hmm.
So even within their family, they must be quite sort of treacherous to each other, and that seems to be something that whatever the history is. I mean, like Richard III is supposed to have murdered 2 princes in the Tower, and
Yeah.
it's a story we're given.
And actually, you're only a good king if you went out slaughtering the world. If you didn't do that, you're a bad king. If you wanted peace, you weren't a good king.
Well, the ones you never hear. I mean, you hear about Henry V and Henry VIII, and to a lesser degree Henry VII, but Henry VI is the one that's supposed to have said, we're not paying for France, that wasn't part of the deal. I'm putting the money into Trinity College, Cambridge, and founding that. So, but he's one you don't hear about. But how much of that is true? Again, I don't know. I couldn't say hand on my heart that's true. I mean, I've held parish registers that date back to the 16th century. I've actually held them in my hands. Now, all I can go on is the information I've been told and making a that's 400 or 500 years old, but it could be a very clever forgery. I don't know. I can't 100% say it is or it isn't, even with something like that. If anything, I mean, going down this sort of path, you become the ultimate skeptic in many ways on so much. And certainly what is becoming more and more evident with anything that is portrayed to us on the internet and the media and everything is like, I take it all with a pinch of salt. Because some of these things like mud floods, Tataria, it's like this is all trickled out from the internet anyway. Then it turns out that that's that big website in France that I can't think of the name of it. That's supposed to be all Jesuit controlled, so they're going to trickle out what they want you to follow.
Oh, don't forget, it probably starts off over there, then they do that, and then by the time it gets to you, it's being sort of like a cake that's been re-iced about 6 times. Well, there's a bit of it, the truth in there, but it's been re-iced so many times. By the time you get it, it'll say, like, the king has died, but basically it was somebody completely different. Do it. It's just madness. It's absolutely do. And when you wake up and you realise how cruel this place is.
Well, when it comes down to it, no matter what is presented, just go with a gut feeling. That is the best guide for everybody. If something doesn't feel right, then that's your gut telling you that something ain't right with it. It doesn't matter what it is. That's why I'd go with it every time. It's not let me. I mean, even the family history.
You know, don't you? I was one of the first people to put out about the Lyris, but you know, don't you? We just know. It's not real. You just know.
Well, the weird thing about it was because Tataria was something I was sort of watching with an interest at the time, and then when this all happened, you got quite a large city, Perth and Dundee, and it's like I'm seeing what we're seeing in those photos of deserted cities before my eyes.
What do you mean? What do you mean, James?
Well, when you see all these old pictures, these black and white pictures of all these cities around the world, well, where are all the people? And then it's like last year in Perth and Dundee, it's like I'm seeing this for real. It's like we've got this city, and where's all the people? Because nothing's open. No one's about.
Oh, I see. Oh, so you mean that when they were taking all those photographs, it wasn't that, and there were people there, but they'd done the same sort of thing as now, and so people stayed at home and it looked empty.
Well, when you look at these photos, I mean, you can get an indication of the time of day from the shadows. It's normally short shadows. It's going to be around about midday, but the size of these places and the number of buildings that don't actually look to be in particularly good condition, and a lot of them don't seem to have windows. If you
everything looks quite ropey in the Victorian times, doesn't it? Even if the buildings are there, and they are some lovely buildings, but the general appearance is it's ropey.
Well, they look deserted, a lot of them, and it was the same sort of picture that I was seeing in Dundee and Perth, and it's like I'm seeing this rolling out before my eyes. What I've just been watching on YouTube.
Well, what do you make about when I put in about in the Victorian pictures of all the women with long hair? There's not one blue-eyed blonde person. They're all dark-haired, dark-eyed.
You got me thinking with that one, because I was thinking. Yeah, well, I was thinking. I got 2 great grandmothers. One was that I personally knew. One was born in 1881. The other one was 1893. So they're in what would be the Victorian era. They definitely had blue eyes. But I know what you're saying. But how much of that footage do we know to be?
We don't know if any of it's real. And I mean, when you look at them all, you've got this feeling that it doesn't look right.
No. this is the thing. That's the thing.
But we don't know. And the other thing I was saying to Amy, we don't know if those pictures aren't really the 1800s. That could have been the 17th or 1600 because they've lied about everything. Those pictures could be a lot older, and that's maybe why they look awkward.
Well, it's the little things like with that after the fire in San Francisco. It's like something doesn't feel right about any of it. These people look traumatized. It's like, well, the impression you get from what you see in the photographs, it's pre-tarmac.
You don't think they're the wars that were going on when they were actually taking it over and creating the new America?
Well, if you see news footage today of where there's been earthquakes, people come out caked in dust and things. But that Market Street, San Francisco, after the fire, why have they got stiffened white collars on?
And not just that, James. Why are all the trams running?
Yeah, that is really bizarre as well.
I mean, the tracks for the trams would be quite a delicate thing that would dislodge quite easily, I think, with a bit of a tremor. Oh no, all those are running. They can be running around on those while they're running past buildings that have all collapsed.
Wow, I wonder about... I mean, I've proposed that if you can get the frequency right and soften the ground, you could sink the buildings en masse.
Well, no wonder the people were frightened. Oh God, another building went last night.
Because my thoughts on this, that was the thing that really bugged me.
Well, do you know what they did with that? I think that they got rid of all that, like they did with Berlin, to get rid of the Tartaria buildings.
Which it's always to cover something up, but it's the tram tracks wouldn't weigh very much compared to a building. This is why I'm thinking on the lines of soften the ground, maybe through frequency and electromagnetic current, I don't know. But clearly something has happened. The other thing I find really weird about it is when you look at the way the people are dressed, you look at the horse and buggies and things, the railways, the early motor cars, and then you've got these trams that look more like out of Buck Rogers. They look very...
Yeah, sometimes there's these sort of there's like futuristic things in there. You think, oh, I didn't know they had things like that then. You know, you find other things in there, don't you?
There doesn't seem to be any sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, any sort of progressive pedigree tram is suddenly there.
Oh, you mean like there's no diagrams to say this is them building the tram? It's just quiet.
There's no sort of generic forerunner to the tram. It seems to have come out fully formed. All this infrastructure, I mean, compared to what was rails, it's running on electric, it's running on overhead wires or conductor slots in the streets. It's totally different from anything.
Do you know what amazes me? I think that's another part of it. It's all part of the same thing. You know, China. China used to be a much smaller country, and the wall of China, you said it yourself, the gates are the wrong way round. It was to keep them out. And not just that, you know, suddenly there was all these Russian towns, like Harbin is one of them, now is in China, but it wasn't, it was in Russia. And they gave it to the Chinese. So what happened there? And then there was all these opium wars going on at the time. Opium wars. Yeah, it goes in other places as well. Artists, I told you, artists was finding it.
Yeah.
He was finding the wall all over the world, bits of it. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere, bits of wall.
To me, it looks more like a defensive structure.
Mind you, would that have really kept everybody out? I mean, there must have been small people then, I think.
Well, looking at the Google Earth of Hadrian's Wall, I mean, it's a very low wall. It looks to have sunk, or the ground is higher. You could sort of pretty much hop over it in places. It's like a dry stone walling, which you use to separate fields. So it must have been a much more substantial, much taller at one time. So whether that's sunk or the ground has come up, but I would have thought, the impression I get is it's all linked.
It's really hard to work things out, James, because you've got some places where, like, I put a picture it might not be out yet, but it's on a video waiting to go out, of this house that's in the water. The roof's gone, and I've done a lot of videos now where they like to take the roofs off and pretend it's fire or it's an earthquake. So you've got
Oh, it's
water
always
in
a
this
fire.
house, right? So the house is now, under a few feet of water. But then somebody put a meme up and it said, "This is obviously the Statue of Liberty in 1920, and this is it 2020. This is the catastrophic, what do you call it, flooding going on, and the water level was no different. So the water level's no different there, but that house has got water in it. So I don't really know what's happened, that some places are a bit flooded and others aren't."
Well, it's what Lavette mentions on her channel, this continuous battle between fire and ice. It's always fires or floods, whereas we're here to bring heaven and earth, the air and the earth, the other two elements. It's just one great big astrological play, basically.
Lie.
They seem to work on the system of two pillars, a lunar cult and a solar cult.
We can't prove this, can we? Because we can't, but it looks like most of the royal family were dark-skinned. Like, why not just tell us that? Why pretend? And now that's why I've put Bridgerton on, because now they're starting to re-add darker people to the footage, so the Duke is a black man now, but he wouldn't have been 10 years ago, but he is now. It's like, well, this is because it was probably like this anyway.
Well, do you know what the answer is?
What's the answer?
It's to quote a biblical verse, take no thought. When you don't think about, because this reality is all about getting us to think, using the conscious mind to interact with this reality. It's when you go into meditation, you get these visions come that are distinct from your conscious mind. They're not your own imagination, as it were, and it reveals things. So it's like, let the things come to you. Water is the element with memory. So showers and baths I'll have a bath before I make a video. It's like let the thoughts come, and they just come that way. You can call it, I suppose, spiritual downloads, contact with higher self, whatever. It does reveal things. As I said on the previous video, the world is a stage, and like a lot of theatres, two curtains, two veils. The first veil is seeing things ain't right with this reality. The second veil is the one that reveals what is and what isn't. The thing is with humans, we've got a very narrow bandwidth with the five senses, but you can double up the five senses, and people will unconsciously they will say things. Oh, I see what you mean now, but you're not physically seeing, but you're seeing with the mind. I hear what you're saying. It's an internal, and the same with feeling. And I've got the taste for that, or I smell a rat. Those sayings, and it's like when one door closes, another one opens. So,
but all roads do not lead to Rome; they lead to Germany.
Well, depends on which way you're spelling Rome. R-O-A-M.
Are they the Romans? I mean, you imagine Germany. I don't think Germany really has any water around it, does it? Or a very top part, I suppose, to the north. Yeah. But it doesn't have much water around it, and they're the Romans. So I don't know.
Well, I think what they've done the old narcissist thing, plays the victim. So why are they called a germ man? When you think about what was based on the Rhine settlements, all the banking industry, the Rhine is the rain.
Yeah, that's what Gillian said in our video. She said the same thing.
Yeah, they've inflicted on whatever the people were of that area, but then twisted it and called them Germans, when they've been the ones that have concocted these unnatural diseases, these germs. And I think that it's
Because
just
they were
another
called
one.
Deutschland, weren't they?
Well, it's even in the Dutch national anthem. It's "Are we of German blood?" It is in their national anthem, and Dutchland, Deutschland. It's so similar anyway. Implies it was one.
Oh, I think you
tribe
mean
nation.
Dutchland, Deutschland,
Yeah.
Dutchland, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, well, you think about it. We refer to it.
But
as
you know what?
Holland,
My
we refer to
Danish
it as the
friend, right? When
Netherlands.
she goes no, she goes 999. I'm thinking she sounds more German.
Well, they're
She's
very similar
Danish.
languages. They're very similar languages. They've got commonality. There was a time that all of Europe seemed to be able to communicate with no trouble, but again, who's given us the language?
Me and Amy were listening to the old English last night. Absolutely no way it sounds anything like the language we've got now. No way.
No.
It's so foreign. And then you think, well, Welsh doesn't sound like they all sound. I don't know. It's like, what have they done to us?
Totally muddled everything up.
Yeah, you're right about that.
That saying about order out of chaos, well, they're just creating the chaos to create the order they want out of it. But it doesn't mean it's going to be an order as in final and that's it, it's all sorted out.
What happens if suddenly James goes, I don't want to speak this English, I want to speak oldie worldy English? You wouldn't be able to understand a word of it. Me and Amy were listening to it. Do you want to hear a word of it? It's absolutely incredible. I just put...
It would be a summer proud day.
No, it's worse than that, James.
Yeah, I have heard it before. Like you're talking about what would be the Tudor times and
yeah, about then that's when they 1600s. You know, like back to that date again. These are dates, right? I have in my mind like we haven't been here for that long or whatever it is, and when it comes to it, those dates end up being when things have happened to us.
Well, it's going with the where I've looked at parish registers. You get no hint of some. Occasionally, you'll get a minister who's written something exceptional in there, or you'll get margin notes. Like when you take Brighton, 1820 burials, 4 out of the 8 on each page, they put smallpox in the margin. When you get back to 1660. There's this huge gap back to there are no records, and it's like,
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We're just gonna hear a tiny bit of it because obviously it's not my video and I don't want to get a strike. But we're just doing it for comparison. Hang on a second, I've got to get back to the beginning. Let's get back to the beginning. Right, here we go.
So you can understand me. Yeah. You understand. Me English, yeah. But you can't speak it yourself. Nee. Nee, ich kann nicht sprechen auch gut Englisch. Und Vorwort Dänisch. But nee, niet hier where I speak English or not Danish.
That is old English.
Oh yeah, tack for the cafe.
Do you understand a word of that? And I
breaking up.
Because I
it was
think
breaking up anyway, but so getting it intermittently.
Oh, sorry, but it's like it may as well be a Danish person standing there or a German. They just don't. It doesn't sound like English at all. There's not one word in there I would know.
What they use as a sort of a reference for what they come up as the Klingon language in Star Trek or something these days.
Yeah, that's right. They're sending it back to us. Right, I'll put this one on as well because this is another one. Let's have a look. Wait a minute, I've got to begin. Oh, it's got to go through the advert. 1 second. This one, you know, like this is Welsh, by the way. Right, I'm gonna start it from here. Turn it up now.
Anybody?
So that's the longest.
Right.
And that's got 4 L's in it.
Yeah. They seem to have a surplus of L's.
But I just find it really weird that they've taken us away from these languages, the Gaelic ones, when actually, I mean, I understand that maybe we all need to speak maybe the same language as well, but there's all these languages and they've just, you know, they're not teaching them to the children. A few decades, 100 years, it'll all be gone because people won't be speaking it.
Well, you've got...
They don't speak Old English anymore, do they? I mean, I actually thought Old English was thou does, one does. You know, it's all thous and things like that, but it wasn't.
Shakespearean English in the
Yeah,
plays.
it's not. It's like another language.
If you can find them on YouTube. If you find the country dialects on gramophone, they sound very different from the English because they've standardised it. It sort of comes in with the.
I mean, what are they telling us? We were another country, and basically they put people, you know, like what they did with Australia when they inhabited it with blue-eyed children, you know, after the war. Is it that they've done that here? I mean, my grandparents on my dad's side were French and German, so it could be that, I don't know. It's like we've inhabited the UK with different people and we've taken over or something.
They've homogenised it because along with dialects you get local words, so they've tried to filter all that out and run it alongside the idea of if you've got a strong country accent then you're stupid. So they've played that one a lot. The original accent for the entire UK on the BBC in the 70s.
What was
They used one accent and what was Radio 4
oh,
thing,
right.
and that represented the whole of the UK.
I say, okay then.
I mean, you listen, even football commentary from the 1970s compared to now is so different.
What, because they were teaching us to speak English, you mean?
Well, it's always been.
And don't forget Cockney as well. Cockney and rhyme, there's another one.
Well, the origin of that is supposed to be it was a way of dodging the police, but I don't know how true that is. Because you've got the rhyming slang and there's a back slang as well.
Well, that's a good idea, though, isn't it? Now we know what all that's about. Just speak Cockney and rhyme; they'll never understand you.
Yeah. Well, no such thing. You got to be born within the sound of Bow Bell. Well, Bow these days looks more like Delhi, shall we say? And the bells don't ring. The church is isolated in the middle of this road. It's like dual carriageway, so it's not very accessible. It's a 30 mile an hour urban section of road, so it's not like they're doing not dual carriageway as in doing 70 mile an hour, but it wouldn't be ideal to have as a working church anyway. But that also, when they tell us a church is decommissioned, I think, are you talking about the religious or are you talking about the true function of that building?
Yeah, it's that we're not sure of anymore, are we, with all those things? Because we don't know we don't really understand our past. If we understood that better, then we'd be able to put the other bits together. But because it's a bit like there's 1 to 10 and they've taken 2, 5, 7 and 9 out, and you're finding 1 and 3. You haven't found the rest yet, and there are all the bits missing. So you can't put it together. I mean, you know, like I told you when I looked up in Marlborough, right? I know we didn't go to Marlborough. We were going to go to Silver Hill, weren't we? But in Marlborough is one of the most historic places in this country.
Yeah, it's a lovely place.
I know we didn't go there, but that's what it said at Marlborough College. This is one of the most historic places in the country. You're like, really? So we just don't know enough. Like, you just learn not really through main media, is it? You're finding it through, like, you know, I'm not saying that not a lot of people understand it, but that obviously Marlborough's got a college and all that, but you go find it there, but you don't find it on the BBC or something.
Very true. Anyway, I'm going to have to go because I've got a meal cooked for me, I'm afraid. I didn't know it was going to be this
James.
Sorry.
Is Rudy with you?
Yeah.
Get Rudy to say hello to us.
He's eating at the moment.
Oh, is he? You can't say hello then?
No.
Okay. Anyway, James, it's been a real pleasure. Glad you got a meal cooked for you. I've got to go and cook mine now. Thanks very much for the time that you've spent, and very interesting as per usual, James.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, my darling. We'll catch up soon, and thanks very much for the chit-chat.
You're welcome.
All right, my
Okay,
darling.
bye.
Thank you, darling.
Bye.
Bye, darling.